You guys, it is essentially merge time on this season of Survivor with all new twists and turns, so let's unpack it. Okay, now I say essentially merge because as we know, in the new era, they're doing this weird thing where it's like you have to earn the merge, you don't just get there, blah, 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 blah.
But this time it was a little different from these past
seasons. It was a little different. So here's what's interesting is, you know, like normal, each tribe, they each get like a little letter that's basically like, hey, this is what's happening, hop on the boat, you're all going, blah, blah, blah. So then they all come on the island together. But I liked this new twist that they brought in, which was, first of all, there was a sign when they all arrived to the beach that was like, once everyone's here, read this together. So they take it off, and essentially what it says is that there is an advantage that will help them in the immunity challenge somewhere on the island. So they all go on this just grand chase around the island looking for it.
And I don't even know if I'd call it grand, because they even said they only did it for like a few minutes. Then they were like, oh, we want to.
They all tried, and they were all kind of like, eh. And I think what's funny is you can tell it's like everyone's gameplay is different, because I think some people were trying to be strategic. They're like, I don't really want to get it, and like, does that put a target on my back? But here's what was interesting, is eventually Genevieve, you can tell she's gonna find it, because she's like, it's kind of like after the fact it seems like, and she's like, I spot this thing out in the water.
Yeah, well, her and Sam came upon.
That she's like, would not normally be there, and she just went out there on her own, got it, and she's like, all right, I had the advantage, and everyone was like, what the heck? But I will say, sidebar, Genevieve is emerging, and this has already kind of been happening, but emerging as a strong player. Reminds me of a lot of some former female players that are really strong in this game. So, okay, so we get to the challenge. And here's what was interesting, is again, it was different than what we've seen in the past.
I liked it. It did kind of feel long the way they did it, but it was at least engaging.
Here's what I liked. So, okay, so the way it worked was, in the past, we've seen it where they're divided in two teams by a draw of, well, actually, they did a schoolyard pick, which we didn't even see the schoolyard pick.
I thought that was kind
annoying.
of lame.
But normally they draw rocks, so they did a schoolyard pick that we didn't see. And then, essentially, you're divided in half, and then whoever wins the team part moves on. You don't just win immunity in the merge, moves on. And then it becomes individual, and one person gets the merge and gets the immunity. And then Genevieve's
her advantage gave it where she got to sit out of the team one,
and then automatically go to the individual.
Yeah, the individual.
And also there was a reward, which was like a meal, but it wasn't like a merge meal because they didn't make the merge. Anyway, it was kind of confusing. But I told you back in the office that there was a theory I have, and here's what it is. So, not necessarily having to do with like what will happen moving forward in the merge. However, I am curious about, so in the new era, a lot of fans have been saying that they feel like there are too many twists, which then do not allow the game to just play itself out, in which the players have more control. And I will say this season has been very wacky, but I do feel like, aside from like the normal idols and stuff, I do feel like we're seeing a little bit less advantages. And I think this is a great example of, instead of wiping out half the people that now can't be eliminated, you have everyone that's vulnerable except for one person. And I think that is a game changer. They also took out that huge, you know, a few seasons ago we had the glass breaking twist, which if that happened, then the team that won then has to go and is up for elimination, which was kind of odd. So anyway, I do feel like this season we're kind of seeing the Survivor producers and Jeff take in the fans' kind of voice. And I really like that. I think that's a strong move.
And any show should kind of see what the fans are saying, because that's who you're making the show for.
Yeah, so I like that component of it. Okay, so then Kyle is, right, Kyle, who won immunity?
Yeah, Kyle ends up winning immunity.
Yes.
And then they get back to camp. And like even before the immunity challenge, Rome.
Yeah.
Rome
is the Hot Mess Express. We've been saying this the whole time.
He talks to Kyle individually, and then he starts to twist these words around to all these other people, being like, Kyle said this, Kyle said that. Little does he know that people went and talked to each other about it. And then you see back at camp after the immunity challenge, Rome is very smug and confident in his, soul's the vote. We're gonna get him out.
Well, what's funny is, to back up on that, is so you got the two sides where at the meal that the team won for the challenge or whatever, sorry, not immunity because it's confusing, they're kind of in agreement that it's going to be Rome. But then back at camp on the flip side, Rome's like, at the beginning of the episode, Rome's target was Kyle, and he was trying to get Kyle, and he's like, oh, well, now Kyle won immunity, so now I've got to pick someone else. So then tries to go after Saul. And I think what we see is that people are just finally over Rome's like antics, which I can appreciate.
He's always stirring the pot, which some characters have, contestants have noticed. Especially, you know, Teeny's been like, I've been wanting to go after Rome for a while now, but she's never had that chance to.
Yes, some people that were maybe on his side formerly. What's interesting though, so we get to Tribal Council, and it kind of does seem like all paths, all roads are going to lead to Rome going home. What was interesting though is we kind of see this very like childish in a good way, but also like kind of fan moment where Rome asked to sit where Jeff normally sits and like talk for a second. It was kind of odd.
How did you feel about that? I didn't like that personally.
A lot of people on Twitter, because you know I checked the Twitter streets for how people feel. A lot of alums and a lot of fans felt like it was a little bit like disrespectful almost, because it's like that's like Jeff's thing and it's like how the show works, and it's weird that he like, I don't know. I think it just speaks to Rome, but what I will say is Rome eventually ends up going home. And I think that what I liked about that was I think it like gave Rome just something to leave with on a high note.
Yeah,
and I will say he left in a very respectful way, which I can appreciate. The other interesting thing we need to point out, so Rome goes home obviously, but the other interesting thing at Tribal Council was the amulet was used.
Oh yes. Mm-hmm.
And we have not seen it used this way. This has been a twist for the last several seasons. We've not seen it used this way before.
Right.
So the amulet is where it's 3 different people get it, and it's 3 different parts, and either has to be used together or the value of it goes up, if other people go home.
Mm-hmm.
But this time they randomly all 3 were like, let's just use it now and we'll use it on Teeny.
I was confused though, because why did they use it on Teeny? When her
Instead
name
of-
came up though,
Yeah, I kind of expected them, like, especially after seeing some of the votes, I was like, why wouldn't they have used it on, I guess it would have been like Andy, because it was Andy, Caroline, and Teeny, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, they should have used it on Andy, just knowing like his past.
Right.
So Teeny was really random, I thought. But
Well-
I don't know. What I hope is on the next episode we see more of that, because you really didn't even see them talk about using the amulet, and then they just did it. And I was
Right.
like, there had to be a lead up of that, though.
I mean, and maybe we'll get that flashback in this next episode.
Yeah. So I know this review has been all over the place today, but that's kind of how this season feels. So I hope you're watching. I hope you like it. I'm curious to see where this goes now that we're officially in the merge. I'll also be curious to see if the person that goes home tonight is actually the first member of the jury, or if they're still on that weird stuff where like this person is pre-jury, because they didn't really clarify that.
How many are normally on the jury? It feels like there's a lot.
I never know if it's 7 or 9, because Big Brother and Survivor are the same format but confuse me because they're different. So I don't know. I guess we'll see. But anyway, brand new episode of Survivor tonight on CBS. Tune in and let us know what you think.